Hi guys, welcome to this episode of the Happy Knitting Podcast. My name is Julia and I'm coming to you as always from Germany. Today is Sunday the 23rd of September 2018 and I am so glad that you're joining me today to talk about some yarn, some knitting. I have quite a lot of stuff to show you guys and I'm just glad that you're tuning in today. So if you're watching for the first time, welcome, and if you're coming back, welcome back. I really hope that you'll enjoy this episode. First of all, I'm recording this about 10 minutes after getting home from a weekend trip, so as usual, I am well prepared, and yeah, we'll just wing it. It'll be fine. Also, I'm wearing a woolen sweater and it's actually really warm outside. It's like 25 degrees or something. It's super summery. It's supposed to be the last day, like warm day of summer. So that feels kind of strange and the light is coming in as well, but we'll just deal with it. But I look a lot more sort of autumnal, wintry, fall-y than I feel, which is weird. Anyways, this is a knitting podcast. All the places where you can find me should have already flashed in the beginning of the video, but I can always just recommend joining the group on Ravelry, which is called the Happy Knitting Podcast Group, if you do want to join in the chatter. Right now, we don't have any knit-alongs going, which feels strange, but I'm kind of enjoying it as well because it's just a little bit more relaxed, but we will get back to knit-alongs soon, I promise, so just stay tuned for that and we will figure something out. Also, I look like a ghost because my white balance is off, but oh well. Where should we start? I think I'll start with some finished objects and then talk about works in progress. I have some finished spinning and I have some acquisitions which are not yarn diet related, so I am in the clear but still have some yarn to play with, which is great. And then I just talk about what's been happening and so on. So let's start with some finished objects, and some of the yarn that is here is super sheepy. And I can just, from sitting here over the weekend, my entire study smells very sheepy, which is kind of sidetracking me, but anyways. Two things I finished in the last week. I feel like I've been super productive knitting-wise. I don't really know how that happened because it didn't feel like I had a lot of time to knit, but apparently I did. But I finished my King Cole socks. These are knit out of King Cole zigzag yarn. I've never tried this sock yarn before, and I really quite like it. It's a very sort of standard commercial sock yarn. It's a wool nylon blend that will probably last forever. It's not super soft, but it's also not terribly scratchy. It's just like your regular Opal, Opal, Regia, a very sort of workhorse yarn. This pair was knit out of the colorway Blossom, which is 3167, and I knit a pair of vanilla socks. So these are done and they will most likely be gifted. I have someone in mind for these. So I'm very happy to have these off the needles. I knit them as usual on 2.25 millimeters US size 1 needles using a 64 stitch count. And they smell very sheepy too. Everything smells sheepy, I think. Oh well, now I have fluff up my nose too. So that is my first finished object, and then my second finished object, some of you may have already spotted, which is what I'm wearing. So this is the Rocane sweater, which I somehow managed to crank out in 9 days. So that's kind of insane, I realized that. But this is a pattern by Christina Danahy, which was originally published in the Pom Pom Quarterly magazine, but now you can just buy it online on Ravelry, just a single pattern. I knit this, like I said, fairly quickly. I was almost monogamous with this. It's a DK weight sweater. You start from the bottom up, and then you have this sort of like textured section at the top and as well on the back. I did not do the texture on the sleeves. I just picked up the stitches and did my own sort of decreases as well. I did sort of brace net length sleeves. And the yarn is some Old Stash. This is some Drops Lima, which is their sort of non-superwash alpaca and wool blend, which I really quite like it. It's the same yarn that I use for Flora, except this is the DK weight and the Flora is the fingering weight, which I will get more into later. It felt really good to just get this yarn out of stash. I don't think I did any major modifications besides not doing the motif on the arms. I added 3 inches to the body because it is a very cropped sweater. But even with the extra 3 inches, this is a little bit too cropped for me. It is longer in the back. And as you can tell, I have quite a bit of negative ease on this. So I'm used to knitting very sort of like boxy sweaters, and this is definitely not boxy. This is very fitted, which I like the look of it. I think it fits me quite well, but it's kind of different to my usual sort of comfort zone in terms of sweaters. So just getting ready for this podcast, I felt like I looked like a schoolgirl. So I think I just need to get used to it and style it. It's probably not the sort of 100% match with what I usually wear, which is why it's kind of confusing. And, well, confusing is the wrong word. You know what I'm talking about. But I do really like the fit of it. It fits really well. And it was nice to do sort of like a different construction, do a less oversized garment, like I said, get some yarn out of stash. I was worried that the neckline was going to be very loose because that's what it seems to be doing on lots of pictures of other people who have knitted this sweater. So I made sure to make mine rather tight just by doing the bind off tightly, and now it is almost too tight. But it's actually quite nice because it holds it all together really well, and I don't think it's going to stretch out too much because this neckline is just preventing that really nicely. So that is my Rocane sweater. I knit that on... What did I knit that on? 3.5 millimeter needles, I think. I'm confused. I don't know. You will find it on my project page anyways. As usual, everything I talk about can be found in my project pages. I keep them pretty well. So you can just find those things there in terms of colorways, yarns, needle sizes, all that is usually right there in Ravelry. So that is my sweater. Like I said, I'm just not really used to this style, and I keep on pulling it down because I'm just not very much of a cropped sweater person. I kind of want to be, but I'm not. I think this would be really nice over like dresses and skirts, but then again, I'm more like a t-shirt and jeans person. So again, we'll see how I wear it. Maybe I'll review it in a couple of months and kind of let you know how I went on with this sweater. But I'm happy to have it done. And that is pretty much it about it. So let's move on to some whips. But before we do that, let's have some coffee. By the way, this is a new record. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and this is my first sip of coffee of the day. I know, right? This morning I didn't really feel like coffee, and then we were driving and I was going to get a coffee, but ended up drinking a Coke instead, and it feels so strange. But I drink too much coffee anyways, which I think is not helping with my stress, so that's not a bad thing. I'm really, really sorry about the lighting. We have a tree in front of our window, and just the way the weather is, the sun is coming in and out and the leaves are moving, and it's making really crazy lighting. But we'll just have to deal with it, and I think you guys won't mind. So let's move on to some works in progress. First of all, let's talk about some socks. In here, if I can open it, oh yeah, I still have my self-striping socks. So this is yarn by Rock and String Creations in their Reindeer Games colorway, which is their self-striping, looking kind of mangled, their self-striping Christmas colorway. And I have finished the first sock. Of course, I didn't put it on a sock blocker, but the first sock is done. It's just a self-striping plain vanilla stockinette sock, and I did a afterthought heel. I always do the afterthought heel without any waste yarn, following the tutorial of Kirby Werby. If in case you're interested, you can find that on YouTube. And yeah, I took the sock with me when I went on a business trip last week. And usually I always take 2 pairs of socks for travel, and this time I only took 1. And I was just working on the tube and like the tube socks, because I was going to put in the heel later, and I just felt like, oh yeah, I'll do one more stripe, and I knew that I was going to cut it quite close in the end. And then the next thing I did was, after getting back to the hotel at like midnight or something, that's when I decided to cut in the heel. And I kind of very randomly placed it, but it worked out really well. And after putting in the heel, when I got home, I measured it and I realized I was already very much ready to start the toes. So it worked out really well. It could have gone very wrong, but it worked out. So my first sock is done. And I have cast on the second one. I haven't done too much work on it. I took it with me when we went out shopping yesterday and just did a couple of rows when we were having breakfast, but not much to write home about. I really, really enjoyed this yarn. I mentioned last week how much I love indie-dyed self-striping yarn, and this is one that I can't really get here in Europe, so very, very special yarn from the US for me, and I think the colors are really, really fun. When I started the first sock and I had like this much done, it looked kind of strange to me because the colors are very out there, but the more I knit, the more I feel like it just works and it's really, really pretty. So these are my stripy socks. And the cake is messed up because I tend to do pull from the outside of the ball and then I pull from the inside to do the heel. And then by the time I do the second sock, usually it's all kind of big jumble, but yeah. Next up, I cast on a new sock because of course I had to. So I just grabbed a skein from Stash when I left for our trip, and the skein of yarn that I picked was an old club skein from the Hedgehog Fibers sock club. They're twist sock to be exact, and the colorway is Carnival. If you don't want to see it, look away, but this has been out for a couple of months, I think. So this is the yarn. This is what it looks like caked up. It is a beautiful, beautiful yarn. It just got so many colors, and this is my first time using the blue-faced Leicester and nylon base. Can you see what the light is doing? That's insane. If I wanted this kind of special effect, I would never manage. Anyways, so this is my first time trying their twist sock base, and I just decided to cast on a pair of vanilla socks because you know how much I love my vanilla socks. And aren't they really pretty? I really, really like these. I did a cuff in a 1x1 rib, which I rarely do. I usually do a 2x2 rib just by default. But I felt like it, and then the rib took forever, and then I was on the phone yesterday, and suddenly I had essentially knit until I'm ready to do the heel. So that went really, really quickly, and I'm really enjoying this yarn. It was really interesting to me because it is just so different to the other sock base by Hedgehog Fibers, which I really like. I know lots of people don't, but I really enjoy it. This is definitely sturdier. I think it's a 2-ply BFL nylon, like I said, and it feels a lot more sort of workhorse, but in a nice way, and the stitch definition is really pretty. I really do like it. I just don't really associate this kind of yarn with Hedgehog Fibers. But I'm really happy with how it's working up as well. It's not pooling, it's just all these different colors sort of micro striping, and I think the effect is really pretty. So yeah, that is my Hedgehog Fibers sock. Once again, 64 stitches, US size 1 needle. I'm using Chowgu for these ones. I always use either Chowgu red lace or Haya sharps. And I like them both. Sometimes the Hayas just glide more than the Chowgus, but then I do prefer this cable, so I kind of just change between these two, and it's really, really important. Sometimes when you feel like a yarn isn't really working for you, maybe change your needles. For me, that sometimes just, I don't know why, but it makes a big difference. So that is that. Ready to do a heel whenever I sit down and do that. I seem to kind of be putting off heels lately. And then I have a new project which I'm so excited about and have been almost monogamous again. So yeah, you remember I finished the sweater, and even before I had started this, I already had another sweater on my needles, which is my Jolie sweater by, I don't know who it's by. It's a sweater using Wollmeise yarn, and I've been neglecting it very, very badly ever since finishing the lace, because now it is just miles and miles and miles of boring stockinette while alternating skeins, and I feel like I'm just getting nowhere. So what did I do when I finished this? I cast on a new sweater. So I haven't even touched the other one. I took it with me on our weekend trip, and I didn't even take it out of its bag. So sad. Anyways, I cast on a new sweater because I was craving colorwork. I had a couple of colorwork sweaters on my queue, and I decided to knit from stash. So I picked yarn from stash, and I actually picked a pattern from my library that I've knit before and really have been wanting to knit again, which is the Dameyaka Lopa sweater by Pineguri. Is she a Norwegian designer? I think she is. It's a very popular pattern, sometimes also called the flea cardigan, and I knit it before, except the first time I knit it, I used a Holzgarn super soft yarn, and I turned it into a sweater rather than a cardigan, because I was afraid of sticking, which I am now not anymore. So I decided to go for it and knit a second one, because I don't really love the first one. Just the colors that I picked were really fun, but I don't really wear it. I just went through my stash and had a look at what yarns I have in which quantity. And I have quite a big stash of Drops Flora, which, like I said, is pretty much the same as Drops Lima, which I use for this sweater, except this is their fingering weight. So this is a alpaca and wool blend, non-superwash yarn, and I've talked about this many times. You may remember if you've been following this podcast for a while. I think I've knit like 3 or 4 sweaters out of this. Most recently, the Winterfjall sweater by Ellie of Scandia. So I just had a look, and I have many sort of single balls that are left over from other sweaters, but I managed to find this color, of which I had enough for the body of the sweater, and then I just picked contrasting colors and I cast on. So let me arrange it. You guys, this is where we are. Like I said, I've been very productive on this. So this is, like I said, the Dameyaka Lopa. You start from the top, and then you place steek stitches, which I have done here, and you knit the yoke top down, I think with 5 different colors. Then you start this sort of flea pattern that goes along the entire body and the sleeves. And this morning I separated for the sleeves, and I am now just working on the body. So this is where we are with that. Like I said, this is just flying off the needles. This is quickly becoming one of my favorite patterns, because I just feel like it is so versatile. And every time I knit one, I want to knit another one in different colors, because it's just such a fun pattern to play around with. Like I said, the first one I did as a sweater, so I didn't do the steek. I also didn't do the flea pattern, I just did a solid body, but for this one I did the flea. This comes with a chart. I think she gives you like 4 or 5 different color palettes. But already when I did the first one, because you're using so many colors, it's much easier to make up your own chart. So that's what I did for the first one. I just used an Excel spreadsheet and placed my colors and knit from that. So for the second one, I just copied that Excel sheet and painted it with my new colors. And what's really, really fun is that way you can just kind of use the chart as a sort of like drawing within the lines sort of fun game where you can just change it up. So I wanted these, like this yellow is clearly my accent color, whereas all the other colors are shades of brown and gray. And usually that yellow is only up here and down there. So I just decided to change it up a little bit, and I placed some more yellow. I just changed the colors a tiny bit. And that was really, really fun. So you can really personalize this while still using the pattern and the increases and such. And then the way I had planned it, my flea stitches, which are these tiny dots here, would have to be in the black, the same as this black. And I wasn't sure if I wanted to do that because they would stand out very, very much. And I kind of wanted to go for a more subtle scheme. And also, to be honest, I don't know if I didn't know if I had another ball of this in my stash. So now that we're home, I can go check. But so I decided to change that as well. So I've just been playing around with the colors, and yeah, it's really, really, really fun. So this is the palette that I went with. All the colors are written in my project page, but I'm really liking this sort of very light beige with the darker sort of brown beige. In the beginning, I didn't know if it was even going to show up or if it was too subtle, but I think it's actually just right. And I really, really like it. So like I said, I am very, very much obsessed with this. This is just bringing me so much joy. This morning I woke up quite early and I just knit on this for 2 hours while watching a documentary, and while Kai was still sleeping, and it was really, really nice. I'm really enjoying this, and I'm putting so much joy and happy things into this cardigan. Yeah, I'm really, really excited about it, and it's working up really fast. Whereas my other one, where you don't have to do color work, is working up much slower. But this is where we are with that. I have woven in all of my ends, except I haven't cut them yet, but they're all woven in away from the stick. If you do want to see my floats, I can give you a quick close-up of that as well. That's a really nice thing about the Damiaka Lopa sweater. It's not a super easy pattern because there's a lot of stuff that's going on. But the color work itself is very easy. There's no carrying or catching floats because all the color work repeats are super simple. So it just makes for a very fun, relaxing knit. And if you're not afraid of like the construction and sticking, I would definitely recommend this pattern. So yeah, I am so in love with this, you guys. I can't even put it down. I love it. So yeah, that is my Damiaka Lopa. I could just keep gushing about this for ages. I'm already planning like my next 3 ones, which is insane, I know. But this is all I want to work on. I even thought about frogging my Jolie sweater, which would be dumb because it is such a pretty sweater. And I do want to have it knitted. I just don't want to knit it. It's very much a product knit, and maybe I just need to work on it because currently I'm at this thing where I'm forcing myself to work on my Jolie sweater, and then you feel like you've worked so much on it and you've done like half an inch, and then I know I have like so many inches or centimeters or whatever to go. But maybe if I just got over that, maybe that would be fine. I don't know. Anyways, this is what is making my heart happy at the moment. Very, very excited about this. I think I cast this on last Monday. So it's been like a 5-6 day progress. And 2 of those days I was away, so I didn't take this with me. But this is just flying off the needles. Talking about needles, I'm using 3.25 millimeter needles. As usual for most of my sweaters these days I use my Knit Prosings. I just have these in a couple of needle sizes and they work really well. Fixed circulars, not interchangeables, by the way. So yeah, that is my sweater, and that is it for my whips because like I said, I didn't really work on my Jolie sweater. So before we go into what has arrived for my stash, let's talk about some spinning. So I think before our holiday, which was, when was that? In the end of June, I started a spinning project to spin some more sock yarn, and it is now September, almost October, and I have finished it. So the fiber that I used was from Das Mocha, who is Sabrina, and I love her. And this was a merino nylon braid. It's been years since I've used her fiber, so it's really fun to get some and spin it up. And I spun this into a 3-ply or chain ply sock yarn, so this is why it took me forever. This is 125 grams of yarn. And I got 470 meters of a fingering weight. So I'm really, really excited about this. I was worried that it was going to be too thin, and it turned out just perfectly, because I don't like too thin handspun for socks. But this turned out so well, and I'm really, really, really happy with it, if I may say so myself. You can see it's relatively even. It would be more even if I had not taken so long to finish it, because of course every time you put it down, you kind of risk changing it a tiny bit. But it turned out really, really well, and I think it's going to be a really fun pair of socks. Again, I just need 5 more hands so I can cast on and knit all the things, because I really, really love it. And I have already started another spin, but I'm not really in love with that. But yeah, I love spinning sock yarn, even if it takes me ages. I'd rather spin like 5 or 6 skeins of sock yarn over the years, which I actually use, than to spin like all these thicker yarns, which I often end up kind of forgetting about in stash. Love it. So that is done. I'm very proud of that. And with that, I will move on to some acquisitions. So I'm still going strong on my yarn diet. I'm going very well. I think it's been 3 weeks now, which to some of you isn't impressive at all, but to me it is. And just as I was kind of, whack, and like it's just been pretty stressful lately, and I've kind of been hitting the I want to order some yarn phase. And when I was in that phase, a package arrived. And I was really, really blown away. But a viewer of the podcast, she had sent us prizes and things, and especially gifts for me in the past, and she just surprised me with a package. So she had recently been to Norway, and you may know that I'm going to Norway / to Oslo in just over 4 weeks. And I'm mainly going, or one of the big reasons I'm going, or we're going, is for the knitting and the yarn. And this viewer of the podcast, she had just been to Norway, and she thought she might send me some yarn and shade cards to get me into the mood and to try it out, which was insanely, just so generous. So she sent me these 2 shade cards, complete shade cards of Rauma Fino PT2, which is the yarn that I'm most excited about in Norway. So she sent me these shade cards, and I've been picking sweaters. Even Kai decided he wants, I think, one of these green shades. I think this one he really, really liked. So he's trying to convince me that I can knit him socks out of this yarn, which I probably could. But yeah, so I'm planning sweaters with this. And this, as if this wasn't enough, she also just sent me 4 balls of Rauma. This is their 2-ply yarn. This is not their Fino. This is just their 2-ply. It's about a sport weight, I believe. I don't speak Norwegian, but this is really, really nice, and it's enough, as she said, for 2 pairs of color work mittens, and I am so, so, so excited to dig into these. So she sent me 2 natural, or I'm not sure if they're bleached, I'm not quite sure, 2 natural colors, and then these 2, so I can make a navy and white pair of mittens or a black and white. So very, very excited about that. Seriously, my heart just melted when I got these, and I'm so excited, and that makes me even more excited about going to Norway. But I do want to try these before we go. And yeah, knitters are seriously so generous sometimes, and pretty much all the time. This really, really blew me away. And like, there's nothing better than getting a surprise package in the mail. So very, very grateful for that. Another thing that showed up finally, and my hair is driving me insane. I was going to go to the hairdresser, and then I came too late and they were booked out. You totally wanted to know that. Another thing that showed up is yarn that I ordered about, 4 weeks ago from Denmark. So you know Ellie of the Scandia podcast. I pretty much do anything that Ellie says, and she got this amazing yarn from Denmark. From this place, I'll probably butcher it, Garnutsalg? I'm not quite sure how to say that. It's a Danish website, and the page is actually fully in Danish. So I used Google Translate and tried to order some yarn. I didn't really know what I ordered, to be honest, but after some drama with not on their side at all, but just because my German delivery firm here was just utterly terrible, this yarn has finally arrived. And it's very, very sheepy, like I said. How do I show this to you? This is the yarn that I ordered. It's a 100% wool yarn. It is, I think, similar to Holz Super Soft and those sort of yarns, except this doesn't have much spinning oil in it, so it feels a lot nicer. I think this is sort of the same as Holz feels like after washing. It has 550 meters per 100 grams, so again, very similar, I think. And it's just a beautiful wool that will be perfect for color work. So I got 2 skeins of this. This doesn't even have like tags or anything. I got the 2 grays, and like I said, these together with Holz should be plenty to make a sweater, because this is over 1,000 meters already. I just picked a couple of colors and I'll just combine them. I got 2 of the blue. These are all the same yarn, by the way. I got 2 really beautiful purple slash sort of magenta almost ones, and I'm not sure if you can tell, but there are like flecks of purple in here. If it focused, it's really, really pretty. And lastly, I got 2 single skeins. They all came in cakes, obviously. And so I can just combine these really nicely. I think like this sort of thing is really, really pretty. So I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with it. The color representation on the website wasn't the greatest, if I'm being totally honest, but I just really wanted to try it. This was incredibly affordable, by the way. So I just decided to get a couple of skeins and try it out, and I think this will be a great yarn for color work, which, you know, is what all I'm craving right now. I could even do another Damiaka loafer. So I'm very, very happy about these, and yeah, they smell super sheepy. If you are more into like the superwash yarn, I'm not sure if you will like this. I think it is soft. Kai doesn't think it is soft. It's definitely a rustic yarn, but for what it is, I think it's a quite nice rustic yarn. And it looks like it is a 2-ply. Let's see if I can show you. I'm sorry, the lighting isn't the greatest. So it's relatively loosely plied, and I think it will make beautiful sweaters. I was getting quite worried because the shipping firm was just terrible, and I had to call them up a couple of times. And every single time I was worried that they might send it back to Denmark, where it came from. So it finally showed up last Friday, and yeah, I can't wait to play with it. I have all the yarn and not enough time to play with it. But yeah, that is it in terms of what's been happening knitting-wise and yarn-wise in this house. Which leads me straight into life in general. So if you're not really interested in that, that is fine. In that case, I will see you later. And if you do want to stick around, then I will just keep on talking about what's been happening and such. But first, coffee. So lots of people have been saying that coffee isn't really great or it kind of helps sometimes, or what's the right word? It makes you even more anxious and stressed, apparently. I know that lots of people stop drinking coffee because of anxiety. And what I've been doing is I've been super stressed and I've been drinking all the coffee to kind of deal with life. So I'm thinking maybe that's not such a good idea. But I should probably do some research about that. How I'm talking about this right now, I don't know. Anyways, what's been happening? Since I talked to you last, well, life and work has just been kind of intense, and I think it's going to stay intense for the next week. I've just kind of decided to deal with it. It it's just one of these things. Summers tend to be really slow here in Germany because all of Germany goes on holidays in August, and now the end of September, everything is, back into the old swing, which is fun, but yeah. So anyways, it's been quite stressful, but I had a really fun work trip last week. Came back Thursday night, and then on Friday I just said to Kai, well, why don't we go away for the weekend? Because you might know that we are really lucky because we have the opportunity to go to a place near the Alps basically whenever we want. So after work on Friday, we just threw everything into the car. Kai was actually quite proud of me because I only took 4 knitting projects, and he thought that was good. So I thought I have trained him very well. So we drove down, and we had lots of nice food, like proper Bavarian German food. I did lots of knitting, which has been so much fun. I really just enjoyed just watching Netflix on my tablet and knitting away happily. And on Saturday we went for a little shopping trip. I did not buy any yarn. I did go to a yarn store, but I didn't buy anything, so I feel like I'm doing really good on the not buying yarn front. And then again, just hang out in the apartment, enjoy some peace and quiet. And this morning, I got up very early, like I said, and had a really nice sort of like knitcation, I guess. And then we went out for breakfast, and suddenly the weather got really, really nice. So we went for a long walk, and we had our coats and jackets, and I was wearing like boots and hand knitted socks. And it was super warm all of a sudden, so that was quite nice, because starting from tomorrow it's supposed to get very cold. Or at least I think that 10 degrees is quite a drop from having like 26 degrees last week. It's super autumnal the way back, like leaves flying around. I'm really, really enjoying that. I'm one of those knitters who loves fall or autumn. And yeah, for the rest of today, I have nothing much planned except tidying up a tiny bit because my dad is coming tomorrow and he will be staying with us. But I'm looking forward to seeing him as well. I've got a big thing coming up on Tuesday, which I'm not going into detail about, but not very excited about that. But also kind of looking forward to it because then after that thing will be over and I won't have to think about it anymore. So that's all that's happening really. I'm looking forward to the next week being over because I know it's going to be another stressful one, but then we're actually going to go away for a couple of days the following week. So I think that is much needed. I feel like I'm definitely ready for like a proper holiday. And we're going away for 5 days in about 2 weeks' time, so that'll be really good for us. Besides that, I was getting really excited about the Yarn Festival in Vaterstetten, which is near Munich, and then sadly realized that I'm not going to be able to attend. So that is quite sad, although it's also quite good because I'm not supposed to be buying yarn before Oslo, so there goes that. So if you're thinking about meeting me there, I'm really sorry I can't make it this year. I really would have wanted to go just for the fun of it, but I'll be back next year, so that'll be okay. Besides that, I don't think I have much to tell you guys. I'm super unprepared as well. But yeah, I think that is pretty much it for this podcast. So I'm going to let you guys go. Thank you so much for watching this crazy knitting podcast. I really, really hope that you'd enjoy it. You have enjoyed it, and I will see you again next week. Until then, have a great week. Enjoy your knitting, and I will see you soon. Bye!